All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's your brother Sorry back with yet another one. Um, Peace to the ancestors. Yeah, I mean, thank y'all for y'all contributions, and I mean, y'all are the shoulders we stand on. Um, giving a shout out to the ancestors, giving a shout out to the true and living man. Who is the true and living? Um, if you tuned into this, if you've been following this video after video, some of these more lengthy videos, following me rant after rant. I appreciate y'all for bearing with me. If you sit through my rants, you must be the true and living. Nice to meet you. Today we're gonna go into I don't know, some interesting subject matter. Now we have at this point I haven't recorded it yet, but I'm not sure when it'll premiere. But we'll get it down. Um, it's a portion, it's a section in Ether Illustrated, where we're going to go into bio-etheric governance. And what we mean when we say bio-etheric governance, we're talking about civilizations in the ancient world who operated as if they understood that there was a bio-etheric feedback loop, that the civilizations, let's say like certain Chinese dynasties or what have you, that are operating up under the rule of heaven. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Operating off certain omens that are generated, whether it be on a national level, whether it be on an individual level. Anytime you're dealing with omens, you're dealing with feedback from the system, divinations, feedback from the system, ritual offerings, sacrifice, whether it be animals, plants, whatever case may be, that's feedback into the system. You see what I'm saying? So we kind of discussed that, kind of fleshing some of these out. We talked about the altar and stuff like that on a previous video. We're going to get into the function of the priesthood within societies um, that acknowledge the existence of some sort of feedback loop between um, the collective soul of their people, whatever the case may be. They acknowledge some sort of feedback loop that's expressed in the um, prosperity or lack of prosperity of their people, or the condition of their people and stuff like that. Okay, so when we dealing with societies like that, what is the priesthood? What's the purpose of the priesthood? Okay, and we're talking about from an electrical perspective, what are they actually doing? Okay, so again, we explore this perspective, not to take anything away from the religious perspective or whatever, but we just exploring this perspective so we can grab a couple of additional nuances and kind of bring back to the table to add with whatever we got from that spiritual religious perspective. So it's, no disrespect to nobody's tradition or nothing. We just try to crack it open and see if we can find some additional nuances. Um, let's see here. So we're going to be dealing with a functional analysis of priesthood within the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop. And we're doing a case study on the Ifa system and the Palo Mayombe systems, the engineering of those systems. Because again, this is just a case study. It's not designed to give you practical functional instructions on either of those systems. I would suggest that you consult if you're interested in the EFA system, consult a qualified Babalav. If you're interested in the Palo system, consult a qualified Palero. This is not for the purpose of showing you how to do nothing, but this is for the purpose of exploring the engineering of those systems. What are they doing? On the previous video, we talked about the altar and everything like that, how the altar is a input output vector and everything like that. Now we're going to go into the difference between these two systems, though they are very similar as far as at first glance. They have very similar themed deities and everything like that or whatever, but when you get into the inner workings of the system, there are nuances. As far as how the systems work, the purpose, the type of energy that they use, and all that type of stuff, and even the function of what the priests do. So let's take a look at this. So introduction, and just as the disclaimer, I'm not a practitioner of either of these systems. So all my people in the comments, if I get anything wrong, you know what I'm saying, I'm not above reproach. Y'all type me up if I miss anything or say something a little bit wrong or whatever. I apologize. I'm not a practitioner. Somewhat familiar with these systems because, like I said, everybody knows practitioners of some variant of these systems or whatever. So we're gonna lean on Carlos Montenegro, some of his stuff as far as the Palo stuff. So it's gonna be backed by the scholarship of certain authors who are actually from that system or whatever case may be. So I can't butcher it too bad, but at the end of the day, I still refer anybody to like authorized practitioners of this system. I'm trying to just give everything their credence. The same way if I was talking about the experiential and Brother Najee stuff, hey, this his system, this is this, that, and the third. I always give you the disclaimer so you know where to look. I'm not gonna be the one to misguide you and mislead you into any crazy direction. You see what I'm saying? So introduction. Okay, introduction. The psycho-cosmological system framework. Microphone in. Okay. The analysis of complex spiritual systems such as Ifá and Palo Mayombe through the lens of systems engineering theoretical physics require an establishment of a rigorous meta framework. This report utilizes the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop as that framework. And as a foundational model, the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop posits that consciousness and biological systems interact bidirectionally with subtle, omnipresent energy matrix, right? The ether or the 0 point field, right? What we've been talking about, Akasha, or whatever you want to call it. This subtle energy is theorized to be the substrate through which intentional input or ritual generate nonlinear outputs, synchronicity, and manifestation. Okay, let's see, the substrate through which intentional input or ritual structured input generate nonlinear or acausal synchronicity and manifestation. So we're not dealing with linear cause and effect. We're dealing with acausal, what Carl Jung is talking about. You see what I'm saying? The theoretical architecture of the bioetheric feedback loop, integration of the bioetheric feedback loop model and concepts from non-conventional physics, specifically those related to Tesla's work on resonant frequencies and scalar waves, provide a mechanism for understanding spiritual phenomena. Research suggests that the archetypal forces, Orisha, transmit their influence through electromagnetic pulses. All right, this and they say electromagnetic pulses and stuff like that because it's not field based. Excuse me, it's not Einstein's physics, so it's not. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. I guess third time's a charm. Okay, so it's not particle based. So it's not little BBs going from point A to point B. That's why they say pulses in the field or whatever case may be. This description elevates spiritual communication from a purely metaphorical realm to an involving specific, measurable, or at least theoretical, quantifiable energetic signatures. Ritual activity, therefore, is interpreted as an attempt to tune a biological receiver, the human body, to a targeted ambient frequency, right? Resulting in an alteration in the local etheric field, right? So if you have an altar to a particular Orisha or whatever case may be, you're trying to tune your field to resonate with that particular energy or what have you, as it were. The Jungian calibration layer. Carl Jung's analytical psychology provides the essential interface between the theoretical physics layer and the human psyche. Jungian archetypes are understood as universal inherited patterns of thought and instinct residing in the collective unconscious. Right? There are patterns that reside in the collective unconscious. These archetypes form the primal software, right? Because when we get into multi-deity systems or whatever case may be, it more obviously functions like a software versus, let's say, a deity system with that may be monotheistic in nature. It functions like a software as well, but it's a little bit less obvious because you have one deity to do everything. Okay, so let's see here. This it's interesting. It's certain esoteric literature that equates Jesus Christ with Mercury and everything like that, with Hermes or Mercury and everything like that. So that's an interesting correspondence, because when you get in certain systems like this, you get those messenger deities in the form of, let's say, like with Palo, you have Zorobanda. With Ifa, you may have Elegba or something like that, or whatever the case may be. And they're the gateway that allows you to interface with the other Orisha, or whatever the case may be. No coincidence in certain correspondence. Jesus Christ, he fits the archetype of Hermes or whatever. If you look up, if you contrast Jesus Christ to Hermes or whatever, you'll kind of see what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be. Dying, you being crucified, going to hell, and then coming back. Hermes is the only deity of the pantheon. He has wings on his feet. He can scale Mount Olympus, and he can go down into Tartarus as well, or whatever. He's the only one that can do that, or whatever. So it's a lot of parallels. So in a monotheistic system, whereas you would have uh, Elegba or Tahuti, or one of the messenger deities as the application processing interface, Jesus Christ would be the application processing interface, as well as the sole application, as far as, let's say, if we were talking about a Christian software. You see what I'm saying? So it's still software, regardless of how you slice it. So let's see, the observable nonlinear output of the system are categorized by Young's synchronicity, meaningful coincidences connected by an underlying pattern or a causal connection that transcends a linear cause and effect. So you're not going to the store, buying a loaf of bread, coming home and making you a sandwich. A plus B equals C. It's something else. It's something that happens. And like how we talked about on the previous video, it may be layers of this acausal stuff, like how we talked about on a previous video, when we were talking about the ancestors in the ancestral realm. According to traditions of ancestral veneration, the ancestors um, of an individual can influence the life of his descendants acausally. You see what I'm saying? So that's a layer of it. It may be several layers of this acausal interaction. Okay, so uh, as we see in the Orisha in a lot of these archetypes, they can um, impact the individual acausally. You see what I'm saying? So it's a whole other world as far as that. When we get into our case study on conjure, you see what I'm saying? The bio-etheric engineering of hoodoo conjure. We're gonna get into some of that stuff like that. A lot of acausal stuff going on in that as well. So we're gonna get into all that in these various issues of Ether Illustrated. Y'all stay tuned. So the observable nonlinear output of the systems are categorized by Jung as synchronicity, meaningful coincidences connected by an underlying pattern or a causal connection that transcends linear cause and effect. If a ritual input, Ebo or Firma, yields a like a sacrifice, yields a um, corresponding manifest change, that change is considered synchronous feedback, validating the function of the bioetheric feedback loop. The synthesis of these concepts suggests that if Orisha as localized manifestations of Jungian archetypes, something like, the seven African powers or something like that, are transmitted via electromagnetic pulses, then the collective unconscious itself must possess an electromagnetic or etheric substrate. Yeah, we talked about that. Um, the Akasha is the ether. The Akashic records is the information stored in the ether, everything that is, was, and ever will be. And no coincidence, the collective unconscious of humanity, period, is also stored in the ether. According to Eileen Day McCusick, in the individual human biofield, your experiences are stored in the human biofield. So this stuff has the potential to store memory. Okay, so the bioetheric feedback loop thus serves as a physical medium for the externalization and manipulation of psychic energy known as Ashe in Ifa and Inkisi in Palo by trained specialists. All right. Let's see here. Thus serves as a physical medium for the bioetheric feedback loops. So the physical medium for the externalization and manipulation of psychic energy known as Ashe or Inkisi. Okay. Defining the primordial software or polytheistic engineering, the hypothesis that pantheons function as specialized primal software. Pantheons function as primal software, specialized primal software. So the people who giving these sacrifices and doing all this stuff or whatever in the ancient world, they're not crazy. They are not whacked out. It's a method behind their madness. It may have degenerated through entropy into some sort of religious practice, but more than likely in its inception, the, the understanding of what they were doing was probably different, more akin to probably what we're talking about now. The hypothesis that pantheons function as specialized primal software modulates is central to this analysis. Polytheistic systems are not merely collections of distinct deities. They are not merely collections of distinct deities, but rather a sophisticated, distributed computing model, whereas each entity, Orisha or Umpungu, in the case of Palo, manages a specific operational domain. Each Orisha manages a specific phase of the energy. Let's say that a different way. Such as, just like how when we talked about the zodiac wheel. If we dealing with the zodiac wheel, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and all that stuff like that, those would be various different phases of the energy. It's all each of those phases of the energy, just like they're talking about each entity, Orisha and Bungo manages a specific operational domain such as warfare, fertility, fate, or communication. Um, each each slither of the astrological wheel, whatever sign it is, it has a ruler to it. Here's a Mars rules Scorpio, and Aries, you know what I'm saying? Mercury rules Virgo, that type of thing. So it all has a ruler, which is emblematic of a particular deity or whatever case may be. You see what I'm saying? So it's a similar thing. The traditions of um, Ifa and Palo Mayombe represent two distinct engineering disciplines. They are two distinct engineering disciplines. They look similar because they may have similar appearing deities or that fit into similar categories or what have you, and they may have similar symbolism or whatever case may be, but they're two different distinct engineering disciplines. Okay, we're not calling them religions, we're calling them engineering disciplines because as we've been seeing, um, we're dealing with electricity from the bottom to the top, and we're dealing with archetypes within the collective unconscious or whatever. So as far as we're concerned, this is software. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so Ifa system and analytical binary coded. You see what I'm saying? They talking about the Odus and all that. An analytical binary coded high level information system focused on informational retrieval. They talking about the Odoo system and everything like that, which it's renowned for being a very well-developed system. People hold it in high esteem, similar to how they hold the I Ching in high esteem for its accuracy and its mathematical substance, destiny alignment, and preventive system maintenance. The Babalawo is the expert diagnostician and system auditor. So it's a system that focuses a lot of energy on divination and maintenance of individual energetic situation, and by proxy, managing individuals' energetic situation manages the community's energetic um, situation or whatever. So that's kind of like, you know, if you encounter, you know, a lot of your Babalas and stuff like that, you know, they you know, do Igbo, they do divination, and they prescribe various different rituals and stuff like that for cleansings based on what they find or whatever. It's they serve one of the functions I know they serve is a diagnostic function for the individual and stuff like that. So, okay, Palamayombe Reglas de Congo, a pragmatic, localized, and ancestor-driven system. So it's based off of kind of what we were talking about in the previous video about ancestor veneration and stuff like that. It has that ancestor-driven system centered on direct energy manipulation and command. The Palero in Gulero. If I'm saying that wrong, y'all forgive me. Y'all type me up in the comments. You know what I'm saying? I ain't above reproach on that. The Palero is the field technician who commands a physical energy anchor, the Inganga. So the Inganga, like how we talked about on the video with the altar and about the altars and everything, that's not an ordinary altar. That's more like the Green Lantern battery. You see what I'm saying? If I can use that as a metaphor, in a lot of circles, people, liken Palo to like black magic. Some people liken it unto that. So with this system, you have two different engineering styles. One is centered more so around a diagnostic and a maintenance system for a community of people and stuff like that. The other is more so centered toward using sigils and things like that or whatever to direct current and stuff like that. He's trying to get a direct result or whatever case may be. He's more of he's using um, the reactor in order to power the effects of what he's trying to do to manipulate the energy and everything like that. Um, so he's using a massive source of energy in order to facilitate energy manipulation, whereas the Babalao is more so um, reading the code and reading the biofield, as it were, and making adjustments as needed. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like two different engineering models. Ifa as a high fidelity information retrieval system, the Ifa blueprint, the Ifa system rooted in the life Ifa cosmology operates as an intricate cybernetic network primarily concerned with mapping individual trajectory against universal constraints. So that goes back into kind of what we were talking about. It's a large part of what they contribute to their community is of a diagnostic value. You see what I'm saying? They're basically um, almost like a personal physician, energetic, spiritual, personal physician type deal. You see what I'm saying? Odu system, information, blueprints, and a causal feedback. The Odu Ifa constitutes the informational architecture of the universe, explicitly structured as a binary code. This architecture comprises 256 unique octograms, 16 by 16 combinations. These 256 patterns are regarded as the foundational blueprints of all possible human experiences and circumstances, right? So, the Odu system encompasses all of that, and you see how that's a similar idea how we talking about in the experiential. Everything you give your attention to is a symbol, language, situations, and all that stuff like that. It's a very similar thing. They're calculating that same a similar thing or whatever, just a different method of feedback. They're using the shells and things. That's just a different method of feedback, but it's still feedback from the loop nonetheless, because as it pertains all human experiences and circumstances. This appears to be a language of situations, is it not? So if Ifa cosmology defines the source of this code, Olodumare, who is the owner of Odu, or owner of first principles. This designates the Odu system as the source code or foundational mathematical constants of reality derived from the ultimate incomprehensible source, Oloron. Okay, so yeah, so it's talking about these symbols, similar to how you have something like that in the I Ching. These are it's like the source code for reality, so to speak, or what have you. Um, so moving right along, the act of divination, Dafa, performed by the Babalao, is the mechanism for informational retrieval. The physical manifestation of the Odu sign through the scattering of the Opele chain or colonets is the observable output influenced by the client's electromagnetic DNA, right? Or of the Ori, right? So basically, like how we talked about on previous iterations of the same series or previous series, however, when a person does any form of divination, they're reading your field. The information that they're arriving at, it's going to reflect whatever the condition of your field is. So that's why they're able to see different things that's going on in your life or whatever, because they're reading your field. Similar to how an astrologer would be doing, similar to how a tarot card reader would be doing. Same idea, same concept. It's just feedback from the field. This process establishes a moment of synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence The resulting Odu sign provides the symbolic template that maps the client's current psychoenergetic state, just like what we were talking about. Ori's EM pulses onto the universal archived blueprint, the Odu verses, thereby facilitating the necessary acausal connection required for a diagnosis. Um, okay, you have that. Um, another similar um, I don't know, something similar to that I run across. Um, the Hamburg School of Astrology. It's called Uranian astrology. It's kind of obscure, but it's super dope. But it's very obscure, and it uses formulas or what it terms planetary pictures and stuff like that. And the planetary pictures will be combinations of, let's say, three planets or something like that. And and out of those planetary pictures, it'll have explanations and everything like that. And there'll be very, very specific situations and circumstances, similar to how what it's describing here with the Odus. So again, feedback from the loop or whatever. Some is more specific than others. So Orishas, archetypal frequencies and primal software modules. The Orisha and Irumolith function as the dynamic specialized software modules within the Ifa architecture. The Arunmole are viewed as ethereal manifestations of Odulamari's will analogous to Jungian aeons, while the Orisha are incarnates or elevated ancestors, functioning as manifest archetypes. Each Orisha represents a philosophical essence or energy that can be personalized and utilized, such as the nurturing energy of the caregiving archetype. The most critical link to the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop in physics framework is the assertion that the Orisha transmit their impact through electromagnetic pulses. Like how we said, it's not BBs going back and forth or whatever. It's a field, so the field pulses. This suggests that specific, like I said, Einstein's physics don't work very well with stuff like this. When we use Tesla's physics, that's what we get: electromagnetic pulses, things of that nature, or longitudinal waves, things of that nature. This suggests that specific orishas correspond to stable, potent, energetic domains accessible through resonant frequencies, right? Different phases of the energy, or whatever case may be. From an engineering standpoint, the Babalaw's ritual activity aims to tune the client's Ori transmitter, right? To resonate coherently with the desired archetypal frequency, Orisha pulse, or whatever case may be. So basically the Babalawo is almost likened to someone tuning someone up. Almost sounds like how we were talking about the principle of Ma'at and pressure mediation. Something sounds something similar to like that. Okay, so the Ori, the personalized receiving terminal and destiny algorithm. Ori, or the head, is the concept governing an individual's consciousness, identity, and destiny. It is viewed as one's divine spark, the highest self, and the most important personal deity. So this would be similar to what we're calling the blueprint in this bioetheric feedback loop. And it's funny, like I said, as we exploring this stuff, we're running into civilizations that are operating off of this feedback loop that we're talking about. They don't call it a feedback loop like in Ifa. There's no word for feedback loop as far as I understand, as far as this information. But as you can see, this is operating off of that same principle. It's very similar to to how um, the Egyptian concept is dividing the individual into various parts and everything like that. So it's very similar. Ori encompasses both the physical head, Ori Ode, and the metaphysical essence of consciousness and alignment, Ori Inu. The successful integration of thought and emotion in Ori Inu results in Ori Iri, or wisdom. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing anything. The core for the individual's mission is encoded in the destiny chosen before birth. The core of the individual's mission is encoded in the destiny chosen before birth, known as the Ayanmo, the divine blueprint or self-chosen path. Now that's an interesting correspondence because, like I said, in astrology, um, all the information of a person's life can be determined at the moment that a person takes their first breath. So if you're 50 years old and you say, hey brother, so tell me what's gonna happen next month or whatever case may be, bro, what my chart look like for next month or whatever case may be. I can tell you from being a 50-year-old person and going into next month or whatever. But if I knew you when you were 1 years old, I could still do that same reading because the information is still all there. All your life experiences and everything like that, like this chosen path. You see what I'm saying? Similar to like the ascendant in astrology, but moving right along. This is contrasted by Kadara, which are the non-negotiable elements, rigid code. Ori acts as the system's individual configuration file, right? Remember how we was talking about the cells in dedifferentiation or whatever case may be, when they go from a kidney cell to a stem cell and then they go to a lung cell or something like that. I'm just doing a hypothetical. The identity of the cell is a part of the charge that it holds. So remember we talked about that? ORIX is the system's individual configuration file. Challenges arise when the person deviates from the chosen path. Improper response, right? How we've been talking about. The deeper level of understanding involves eponry, uh, Apunri, the eternal transcendental counterpart to the earthly Ori. Apunri serves as the eternal witness, the guardian of the divine blueprint in the spiritual realm, awaiting reunification with Ori for psychological wholeness. Then we talk about that in the Egyptian book of coming forth by day or whatever. The bar and the car have to unite. Slightly different, but similar concept. Given that Ori is initially a composite of electromagnetic pulses at the time of birth, the process of alignment, achieving Ori Eri, involves establishing coherent resonance between the transient electromagnetic signature of the physical Ori and the stable eternal frequency of the Apunri, the soul's home signal. The fundamental purpose of Ifá's diagnosis is to measure the frequency drift between the actualized Ori and its original Apunri blueprint. Now, didn't we say that we have another video where we're talking about, I know Plato's theory of forms, and it's another video we talked about that the experiences that we go through in our lives is a differential between the blueprint, the perfection of the blueprint, and the imperfection of the physical world. And our experiences are the nature of reality trying to heal itself or trying to get the imperfection of the physical world to be similar to the perfection of the blueprint. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. And that's, as we can see, that's also in Ifa. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so okay, so to measure the frequency drift between the actualized Ori and the original Ori blueprint, identifying the necessary corrective adjustments. So again, the Babalawo is kind of dealing, he's like modulating the frequency of the individual. You see what I'm saying? Okay, the priest as a diagnostic interfacing system operator, the Babalawo or high priest of the Ifa oracle, whose title means father of secrets or father of mysteries, functions as the primary system analyst and custodian of the informational architecture. The Babalawo's diagnostic function, individual calibration. The Babalawo's role extends beyond mere religious interpretation. But beyond mere religious interpretation, they act as educators, mentors, and traditional doctors, healers. Their function is fundamentally a cybernetic task, running a diagnostic scan against the universal Odoo database to detect system errors. What? Let's go back again. Their function is fundamentally a cybernetic task, running a diagnostic scan. You do you make Ebo and everything like that, and he runs a diagnostic scan or whatever case may be. He casts the shells or whatever case may be and does a reading, reads the Odoos and stuff like that against the universal Odoo database, the 256, to detect system errors. Detect if your Ori, the frequency of your Ori is deviated. You see what I'm saying? From your chosen path at birth. Interesting. Divination identifies the lesson needed to help clients overcome resistance to growth. What? Termed EB, system error or spiritual blockage, right? So the idea of spiritual blockage, excuse me, this is not the first time that this has come up. This came up before when we talked about um, marble points, um, acupuncture meridians, things of that nature. This came up again when we talked about those things. And to facilitate the smooth assimilation of growth, the Bible interprets the feedback and provides the required patch, EBO. See, liken it to patching it, remember Windows and all the service packs that would come out, service pack 3, service pack 4. You know what I'm saying? There would be patches in to patch up glitches in the system or whatever. So they're likening the EBO um, to patches necessary to correct the detected deviation in the individual's ori eponary alignment. This process is critical for guiding individuals toward psychological wholeness, individuation, as described by Carl Jung, by integrating unconscious elements into consciousness. All right. So let's go into this. Let me see here. Issue, Elegua, the messenger, the gateway, and transactional protocol. Now remember we said this would be equivalent to Hermes, to Houthi, you know what I'm saying? A messenger deity in a pantheon would serve this function regardless of what pantheon he's in. Now, like I said, if you go in and you make the contrast between Jesus Christ, he has a lot of contrast to Hermes Trismegistus, or just Hermes period in the Greek pantheon, or whatever case may be. Jesus has a solar connotation as well, but he also has a connotation of like a messenger, because Mercury is the closest planet to the sun and everything like that. If the sun is metaphorically God or whatever case may be, that will be the son of God, or that sits at the right hand of the Father. However the mythos goes or whatever, but that's a part of the symbolism or whatever. I know a lot of my Christians probably out there like I ain't going for none of that, but that's fine. This is just submitted for your approval. We just kind of sitting this right here. We're making contrast. We just having a conversation to provide contrast, not trying to convert you two away from nothing. Whatever stops you from robbing the people liquor store, don't rob the people liquor store. Whatever stops you from doing crime or doing crazy stuff, whatever that keeps you grounded in the mind, I'm all for it, or whatever case may be. This is just for the mature mind who wants to kind of delve a little bit deeper into these things and kind of like get other little nuances in them. So let's keep going. In systems terminology, issue operates as the API, application programming interface, and packet switcher. Issue operates as the application programming interface and packet switcher. All ritual requests, EBO, must pass through him to be delivered to the appropriate destination deities. Okay, in the sense of Jesus, nobody gets to the Father but through me. You see what I'm saying? So in Christianity, Jesus is what issue is. Jesus is the application programming interface. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so issue is also known as the Lord of Paradoxes and the God of Uncertainty. This paradoxical element reflects the necessary nonlinear function within the Bio-Etheric feedback loop, the God of paradoxes. Okay, nonlinear function meaning a causal function. It doesn't have a plus B plus C type of equation or whatever. It happens randomly, so to speak. Okay, linear cause and effect cannot account for synchronicity or instantaneous ritual effectiveness. Linear causality cannot account for synchronicity or instantaneous ritual effectiveness. Issues chaotic, unpredictable nature uh, aligned with a causal probability. Uh, Unpredictable nature reflects the mechanism by which the structured energy information, EBO, ODU, is introduced into the volatile acausal realm, the ether, collective unconscious, to trigger immediate system change. I think in we were reading The Nature of Nature, and RIP to Johnny Eugene Brown. We were reading The Nature of Nature by Afro Uno, and he was talking about the way he called it. He said brain loops operate magically. This is what he meant. We taking the magic out of it, and according to Carl Jung, acausally. You see what I'm saying? For your research purposes. He is in effect the entropy manager required to bridge the physical and metaphysical dimensions. EBO, sacrifice, input, power modulation, and transactional costs, right? EBO is the input vector representing the offering of something to a particular deity as a means of communion and requesting natural elements to work on the devotee's behalf. Ebo is essential for maintaining equilibrium between the physical and spiritual worlds. All right, this sacrifice, this input into the system, it is essential for maintaining equilibrium between the physical and spiritual worlds. So, if this is a case study where we're using Ifa as an example, because that's a well documented system that a lot of people worldwide use, or whatever case may be. So we can use it. It's a significant data to use it for a case study. But as we can see, the idea of sacrifice or input into the Bio-Etheric feedback loop, that's a global thing from ancient to modern. So we just kind of like, examining that and just taking note of that. The mechanism requires energy transfer. Ashe, spiritual power is the driving force, right? And money, Aj, I guess Aj, I don't want to mispronounce it, is the recognized as a form of Ashe, right? Ebo requires monetary input, which acts as a toll fee required by Ishu Odara to carry and deliver the ritual packet through the gates of heaven, right? So the money is a form of ashe because you got to work to get the money. Well, a lot of us work to get money. You know what I'm saying? No, nobody ever asks how you got the money. They just ask you got it. So you know how it go. This confirms that the act of sacrifice is not merely symbolic, but a direct energy transfer required for computation and processing within the bioetheric feedback loop, right? So when you do a sacrifice, it's an input into the feedback loop. Furthermore, Ebo often requires psychological change and internal transformation, or looking in a mirror to see beyond the surface. This dual requirement for Ebo input demonstrates a critical systems feature. The bioetheric feedback loop requires both physical energy to fuel issues, delivery, and ritual transaction, the money, and psychological entropy reduction to adjust the Ori's internal frequency. The physical sacrifice facilitates the spiritual transaction. The physical sacrifice facilitates the spiritual transaction. So this is Ifa as a case study of this, but this same idea applies in the ancient world. When we see people making sacrifices in the ancient world, this is what they were doing. This is input into the feedback loop. This is a technology more so than just a religion. It can be taken as a religion, but as we see, we're breaking down the engineering of this. So this is a spiritual technology. The human body is electrical. All of this is energetic and electrical in nature or whatever. So this ritual, so-called religious ritual, when you understand that all of this is electrical in nature or whatever the case may be, this becomes an act of engineering more so than just some sort of mundane religious ritual. Okay, while the internal change ensures that the Ori is correctly configured to receive and integrate the resulting frequency shift prescribed by the Odu diagnosis, the system mandates holistic change demanding both external energy input and internal user calibration. So you have to do something. You have to input something into the system, like some money or something like that, in order to um, initiate the feedback or whatever case may be. But also, it's something that you have to do as far as calibrating your character and all this stuff like that. So that's the engineering of the IFA system or whatever in a broad look. I mean, it's a lot more nuance to that, obviously. But again, our purpose is not to give you a functional how-to type guide or nothing like that or whatever. Several books on this subject, and it's a lot of living people out here who kind of practice that. So you know that's where they come in. I'm just trying to give the overall um, blueprint. Okay, so let's get into the second half of our case study. Palo Mayombe as a localized energy management system, the Congo reactor. So now we're going to get into Palo a little bit, and we're going to see the difference between the engineering of Palo, the bioetheric engineering of Palo versus the bioetheric engineering of Ifa. Okay, so in stark contrast to the informational complexity of Ifa, Palo Mayombe, Reckless de Congo, operates as a high-power, localized energy manipulation system focused on immediate command and effect. So it's less of a diagnostic nature. It's less involved in as far as the diagnostic aspect is concerned. It's about getting results. Um, I would even compare it. to an extent, um, to hoodoo conjure, in the context that it's about getting practical results. When we go over the bioetheric engineering of hoodoo conjure, it's about practical magic, folk magic. It's about getting practical results in real time. In that vein, Palo is very similar, but with Palo, it's a lot of energy involved, and that's what we're about to get into. The Congo reactor, the Inganga, the bioetheric vortex and anchor. Okay, let's get it. Central to Palo practice is the Inganga, also called Prenda, typically an iron cauldron. So, just to kind of preface this or whatever case may be, uh, this is a case study with Palo, but Palo is not the only uh, tradition that deals with cauldrons and stuff like that. So this is an idea of what of the function of a cauldron in a magic ritual is, period. But it holds a specific place in this particular tradition, as we're gonna see. This vessel is filled with a range of artifacts, earth, sticks, infinda, and crucially, human remains, infumbi, the spirit of a deceased person. So with this, when you get an Apollo and everything like that, um, and again, any of my practitioners out there, y'all correct me if I don't want to misrepresent anybody's tradition. So if I get anything wrong, y'all hit me in the comments or whatever. I'm not beyond reproach on this. This is more of a case study than a how-to on Apollo again. But with that, with Paulo, it's dealing with the spirits of the dead. You're dealing with, it's along that lines. It's dealing with, um, yeah, the spirits of the dead in creating inkisis and various different things of that nature. The Inganga is conceptualized as a micro universe, reflecting the forces of the larger world and serving as an anchor for the spirit, which is then bound to serve the Paleto. This architectural choice defines the functional divergence from Ifa. So this is the functional divergence from Ifa. The cauldron is a micro universe, almost a portal, so to speak, reflecting the forces of the larger world and serving as an anchor for the spirit, which is then bound to serve the Paleto. This architectural choice defines a functional divergence from Ifa. So you can see Ifa is not concerned with nothing like that. It's dealing with its own respective archetypes or deities as far as the Orisha is concerned. Palo has its own brand of spirits or archetypes or whatever case may be. But this is the central thing as far as Palo is concerned or whatever case may be. This cauldron. So that the engineering, just in that alone, the bioetheric engineering of Palo is starting to deviate from Ifa. Okay, Ifa utilizes a distributed information-based approach to influence generalized archetypes, right? The Odu system, right? Um, Whereas Palo utilizes a singular, physical, and highly concentrated vessel. A singular, physical, and highly concentrated vessel. So instead of the Odus, which are, 256 and everything like that, the Paletto deals with this reactor that we're talking about, the cauldron, the Nginga, to anchor and command a localized, intense energy source. The Mfumbe and Mpungu, the Nganga is effectively a high power reactor. Yeah, because like how we talked about on a previous video, when we get into the left and the right hand path, or whatever case may be, um, this is kind of like a somewhat of an example of that, right? So with the left hand path we talked about, that's high voltage, potentially low coherence. Excuse me, yeah, that's a high voltage, high risk, high reward type of thing, or whatever case may be. You're dealing with more aggressive entities, more death-like forces, more destructive-like forces, more left hand spin type forces or whatever that break things down or whatever the case may be, similar to how we were talking on the circle of space, matter of time, versus with the Ifa system, you're dealing with that's more of a right hand path. How we know it's a more right hand path is because the forces are more benign. The Orisha are more, they still have a level of power and functionality, but they're more, I don't want to call them neutral, but they're similar to how you have the Rada and the Petrol Lord in the Vodun pantheon or whatever case may be. They're more benevolent, so to speak, or whatever case may be, as far as the seven African powers, as far as the Orisha in general, as opposed to the Palo um, archetypes or whatever are more aggressive and they represent more um, dangerous and um, I don't know, potent forces within nature. So, okay, the choice of the iron cauldron is significant in the context of theoretical physics. Iron is critical for generating and focusing magnetic fields. The Nganga functions as a ferromagnetic containment vessel designed to anchor, focus, and amplify the spiritual etheric vortex established by the contained spirits. So it's not only it's a reactor, it's an accumulator, an amplifier. So it's a hell of a piece of equipment or whatever. It may not, and that's okay. So this is one of the reasons why we filter stuff through this framework or whatever case may be, because it would be easy for the layman to view that. Oh man, it's just a pot. That's just a cauldron. Oh, that's just this, that, and third. Wow, it looks kind of ominous or whatever, but what is that really? This is what it is. From this perspective, it's a reactor. It's an accumulator of energy. It's an amplifier or whatever case may be. It's a bad piece of equipment that's the centerpiece of this whole, the engineering of their whole spiritual system, a unique piece or whatever that allows them to do some unique stuff as far as their whole tradition is concerned. Okay, so the Palero Tata Yayi, direct energy manipulation and command. The Palero Tata or Yayi is the operator of this energy system, often referred to as the Ingangulero or the god of the Inganga. They are trained to command the spirit within the vessel to execute specific tasks, ranging from healing to causing harm. So this is a different engineering than what we got into with the Ifa system. The Ifa system is more of patches and things or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? I'm sure they have, little. I'm sure they have certain rituals or whatever to cause harm or whatever the case may be, or to heal in a similar fashion or whatever. But this is expressly. This is kind of what this is designed to do. Like Palo is kind of aligned with black magic or whatever, so it's more aggressive in nature in its function or in some utilizations or what have you. With Ifa, it's more of the maintenance of a community type deal. It's almost like a healer type deal, the Babala or what have you, or a um, custodian of history and culture type deal. You see what I'm saying? Okay, they are trained to command the spirit within the vessel to execute specific tasks ranging from healing to causing harm. The functional role of the Palero differs dramatically from the Babalao. The Babalao is an analyst, an interpreter, systems analyst, while the Palero is a direct energy operator and engineer trained for hands-on direct manipulation of forces. So it's actively manipulating the forces that are generated by this high voltage source, this freaking reactor, this cauldron, this inganga. The impungu are ancestral or nature spirits regarded as material manifestations housed within the inganga. These entities, such as Francisco de los Siete Rayos, god of the seven rays, lightning, represent focused high power modules associated with volatile natural forces. So this is another difference between the Palo system and the Ifa system or whatever. Similar forces, similar natural forces, but the Palo system, it taps into more volatile forces, and this immense power source that it's using allows it to tap into those um, more potent forces or whatever in a controlled manner. You see what I'm saying? So just peeping the engineering between the two systems or whatever case may be. The Palero channels these concentrated energies for practical application. The Firma, symbolic programming and vectoring energy flow. The Firma, sigil, Okay, this is another. Okay, so this is another way that the Paleto directs the energy coming out of coming out of the cauldron or what have you. This is very similar to Veves in Haitian Vodun. You see what I'm saying? The firma, the sigil, is a geometrically complex symbol drawn onto the inganga or the ground to define the specific operation requested by the Paleto, while the Ifa Odu provides a diagnostic code, a reading of the current state. The Palo Firma functions as command codes, right? It's commands. Sort of like how you have sigils in um, medieval grimoire magic and stuff like that. Medieval ceremonial magics. You have the Goetia have different sigils associated with them, or whatever case may be. This is a similar thing. So this is operating command versus the Ifa system diagnosis or whatever case may be. A precise vectoring of immediate energy, the drawing of a firma, is the spiritual equivalent of programming a 3D vector field manipulation. This can be analogous to a modern physics research concerning the manipulation of energy flow through complex vortex singularities. The Nginga system generates a localized etheric vortex. The Paleto uses the firma geometry to introduce and anisotropic parameters into the Nganga's field, adjusting the rotational behavior and energy distribution of the vortex so they can mediate the pressure of the vortex. This enables highly targeted manipulation to achieve the desired effect. The firma is the geometric programming language used to interface with the contained uh, energy reactor, the cauldron, the Nganga. So the firma are the command codes used to interact with the reactor or give commands or command the energy that the reactor produces. As you can see, that's a whole different engineering, spiritual engineering. The priesthood diagnostic. Social and engineering roles within the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop. The divergent methodologies of Ifá and Palo reveal two distinct approaches to maintaining individual and collective coherence within the Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop. The priest diagnostic nature for the individual. The Babala's diagnostic focus is internal and long term. The process aims at aligning the individual's consciousness, Ori Inu Ode, with the moral integrity, Iwa Pele, required by the chosen destiny, Eyanmo. This guide assists the client in achieving psychological wholeness. The Babala's functions is ultimately one of system optimization, guiding the human terminal, Ori, to its maximum potential by minimizing frequency deviation from the Oponri blueprint, right? So his function is mainly diagnostic because he's basically designed to service a community of people. You see what I'm saying? The Babala. So it's not that one's better or worse than the other one. It's just they just serve two different functions. So I would assume maybe let's say like your Egyptian priest or something like that, or the priest in a society would probably mirror more so that of a Babala or whatever case may be. The Palero would be more of a specialized priest or a specialized individual. He would mirror like a specialized priesthood of some kind. Um, in contrast, the Palermo diagnosis is external and immediate. It involves identifying the requisite energy module, Mpungu, and necessary command code, Firma, to address an immediate concrete operational need such as healing, protection, or localized conflict resolution. It is direct maintenance and intervention, prioritizing efficacy over ethical, psychological development. So his thing is to get the job done. It corresponds with hex magic and conjure. You see what I'm saying? So it's something along those lines. It's to get an immediate result. The function of the priest for the collective of the society. The priesthood serves vital societal functions that extend the bioetheric feedback loop maintenance beyond the individual level, ensuring collective energetic stability. The Babala is the custodian of collective data and cultural cohesion. Like I said, he's more. a person that maintains a collective, like a tribe or a group of people. You see what I'm saying? They preserve the foundational language, proverbs, and ritual customs that define Yoruba identity, serving as the cultural bridge. Um, yeah, they maintain the cultural continuity of the Yoruba culture, of the Yoruba people, and the Ifa religious tradition. By diagnosing individual systems error and recommending correlative Igbo, they prevent small deviations EB from escalating into collective instability. I think we talked about that. If you make this in the field of the individual people, then by proxy, it's going to help the field of the society as a whole, and by proxy, like we talked about on the previous video, it's going to benefit the ancestral spirits as well. So they maintain collective energetic equilibrium and function as a societal data center and ethical auditor, ensuring the entire social system remains calibrated to the primal software. So as we had the video and we discussed ancestral veneration and everything like that, um, that particular type of priest would be very important for the maintenance of a society, for the the benefit of the ancestors and everything like that. That the Babalawo or a priest of a similar nature in any civilization would be very necessary for the continuity of the civilization. Um, he, he almost reminds me of, let's say, like a griot or a healer or something of that nature. You see what I'm saying? By contrast, the palero functions as the localized protection and conflict resolution system. So this is like the soldier. He's like, they're like witchcraft, warcraft type deal. Through the Inganga, the palero provides essential protection and manages localized energy fields. They are capable of manipulating forces directly, including the influence of both good and backward evil essences, to address immediate societal problems. The Palero is, in essence, the neighborhood security system and emergency power supplier operating with localized, high impact force within an often more volatile operational framework. So that's who you when stuff hits the fan, that's who you go get, the Paletto. You see what I'm saying? He's more in an emergency capacity. As far as when stuff hit the fan and you gotta have a result like right now, the Babylon maintains the continuity of the society over a longer period of time. So comparative system architecture and engineering implications. The juxtaposition of these two systems clarifies the engineering choices inherent in managing the Bio-Etheric feedback loop. Ifa privileges information, Odu, and alignment, Ori, while Palo privileges energy, Nganga, and the command, Firma. The following table provides a structured analysis of the two architectures. So yeah, so it goes into the different terminologies and everything like that. Uh, okay, synthesis, the electrical and etheric engineering of polytheistic software. Polytheistic software. So it's not just a random belief system or whatever the case may be. It's literally a software to operate the unconscious, the collective unconscious. The electrical implications of both systems center on the use of symbolism as an interface language for restructuring the etheric field. The Odu system functioning as as binary signs organize information into predictable data packets, defining the required path of alignment. Conversely, the Firma's geometric sigils are used to generate dynamic geometric parameters, potentially inducing controlled vortex singularities into the local energy field of the Nganga. So the sigils or the firma manipulate the energy field of the cauldron itself or whatever case may be. So it's very interesting, a very interesting energetic engineering. The systems are the cognitive tools used by the priest to translate complex intentionality into specific etheric alterations. The priest's role, regardless of tradition, is that of specialized, high precision transducer. He's changing one type of energy into another one. He's Bishop from the X-Men. Through rigorous training and initiation, their consciousness becomes the filtering mechanism. The Babalawo interprets highly complex informational feedback, Odu, and introduces calibrated holistic input, Igbo. The Paleto applies highly focused, high power input, Firma, sacrifice, for immediate localized effect. The Ifa system is, in particular, demonstrates a classic closed-loop cybernetic system. The blueprint, Odu, informs a sensor reading DAFA, Ori, electromagnetic pulse, which enables error detection, Ibi, leading to correction, input, Ibo, cultivating in system recalibration, Iri. The priest drives the optimization and maintenance of the individual and collective destiny through command of both energetic and informational vectors. Okay, conclusion. The implication of polytheistic software engineering. It's two models that we talked about. The systems of Ifá and Palo Mayombe offer empirical and procedural evidence for the existence and operational management of Bio-Etheric Feedback Loop. Ifá represents a sophisticated data-driven system engineered for long-term human potential maximization, long-term, similar to what we talk about the right-hand path and destiny alignment. Its architecture is built on a massive binary information library, ODU, 256 of them, and operates via alignment to resonant frequencies, Orisha as EM pulses. The Babalawo is functionally a psycho-cosmological consultant focused on restoring coherence between the individual's current state and their preconfigured blueprint, right? Palo Mayombe, conversely, is an intense reactor-based Nganga engineered for command and rapid localized effect. Its strength lies in anchoring concentrated energy fields in Ganga and manipulating energy flow directly through geometric command codes, Firma. The Paleto is a direct field technician, prioritizing immense power output and control over informational analysis. Both traditions demonstrate a nuanced understanding of spiritual reality as an engineerable domain. Spiritual reality as an engineerable domain, one that responds predictably, albeit non-linearly, acausally, synchronistically, to specialized intentional input. The enduring reliance on the priesthood rests on their function as specialized non-mechanical system engineers capable of interpreting subtle energetic feedback, managing complex informational architectures, and actively maintaining the psychocosmological coherence necessary for the functioning of the bioetheric feedback loop on both individual and collective scales, right? So we're dealing with the individual blueprint and a collective blueprint of the society. And really a collective blueprint as far as the ancestors is concerned. These systems represent sophisticated ancient blueprints for utilizing and interacting with the subtle electromagnetic environment that underpins Young's collective unconscious and Tesla's concept of etheric energy, straight like that. So that's yeah, that was our case study on the role of priests in multi-deity systems. The case study was using the Ifa system from the Yoruba people and um, the Palo system. You see what I'm saying? Two two systems that at first glance look very similar, but when you explore the nuances of the system and how it's structured, the engineering, the bioetheric engineering of the particular system and stuff like that, you see the nuances and the difference and the difference in the functionality of both systems. So yeah, man, we're gonna keep rolling with this. It's no sign of this slowing down or stopping, man. Y'all stay tuned, like and subscribe, hit your notification bell so you can get this hot fire through your speaker, man. More ether illustrated, man. Y'all check it out. Peace and blessings, peace to the gods, man. Y'all stay tuned.